Right, I am showing that it is now 10 o'clock, so we will, we've got two people that are online with us. We've got both Steve and JJ are in locations that are open and accessible to the public. Steve is in Florida and JJ is in Puerto Rico. And so we also have Josh who's missing today, who is excused. So with that, we'll call the meeting to order, and if you would rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So public forum. Bob, would you like to speak?
Sure. Not too long applying here. My name is Bob Brewster and I'm from Arna Township, and Commissioner Lovegren is my commissioner. So I do better at public speaking if I write it down ahead. So I'm going to read. I've been a zoning administrator for Arna Township for 41 years. I've probably attended hundreds of town board meetings. I've worked with DNR shoreland issues, PCA septic system issues, the subdivision of land, building permits, conditional use permits. Arna also has a nuisance ordinance to abate accumulations of junk, which is unfortunately the source of many problems. Minnesota Statute 163.16 places county in an oversight role when a township fails to maintain a road. You have a copy of our petition, so I'll not read what you already have. If our petition is granted, then there would be a public hearing where the Arna board would have an opportunity to explain their side of the issue. Only then could you make an informed decision. But for now, we're only at step one, this petition, and not at the public hearing for step two. The only requirements at this stage are: 1, to submit a written complaint signed by 5 or more landowners, and 2, to show that a described town road is not reasonably passable due to a lack of maintenance by the town. We believe we have met these requirements and the process should move on to step 2. The county attorney will either agree with us or not. I confess going a little overboard with all the detail that's in our petition, as some of that detail is more appropriate at step 2. Also, there is some irrelevant information in the petition as well. The statute does not ask each petitioner to explain just how badly the impassable condition affects them individually. So Ron Wickham's personal details are essentially irrelevant right now. That an abutting property owner claims ownership of the Gandy Dancer Trail is both absurd and irrelevant as well. The statute does not require a petition to explain how a township road has become impassable. But I'm compelled to explain that you've had to call a sheriff's deputy to eject disruptive citizens at every monthly town board and planning commission meeting for almost a year now. The town board, the planning commission, the clerk, and myself have all received death threats, along with some county officials. The road is impassable because township supervisors have caved in to prolonged intimidation. This is the reason for including these irrelevancies, hoping their inclusion illuminates the bigger picture. Our township has worked hard for a solution to our problems. Consulting our attorney, the Minnesota Association of Townships attorney, and both the Pine County attorney and the sheriff's office. We have pretty much exhausted our options. These resources have all been very helpful, but in the end, it all boils down to the resolve of the town board itself. The effect of threats on people is varied and difficult to understand, but we need your help badly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We need to adopt the agenda, and I see we have some additions.
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are 2 additions. If we could add consent agenda item number 5B, promotion in the jail, And then if we could add to regular agenda item number 8.1, impassable town road. This is the complaint that Mr. Brewster just spoke to.
I'll move as amended, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Matt. We have a first.
Second. I'll second that.
Thanks, Steve. So we have a first and a second. Are there any questions or other additions that anybody wants to add? Not Debbie, would you do a roll call, please?
District 3, Chair Lufgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
And move on to approve the minutes from January 16th, 2024. And the summary of publication.
I'll move.
Thanks, Matt. We have a second.
I was not at the meeting, so I would defer.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thanks, JJ. So we have a first and second. Are there any questions? Comments, corrections? If not, Debbie, would you do a roll call, please?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lufgren. Thank you.
Thanks. Minutes of the boards, we've got the Pine County Chemical Health Coalition from January 11th and the Pine County Land Surveyor Monthly Report for the month of January.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. Are there any questions on those reports? Not, Debbie, can you do a roll call, please?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lufgren.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then we need to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move that.
Steve,
I'll second.
thanks, Matt. So we have a first and a second. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? Not, Debbie, would you do a roll call, please?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lufgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our regular agenda. And first we have the Local Housing Trust Fund public hearing presented by staff. Thanks, Leslie.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Sauter, your Economic Development Coordinator, and in your packet is some information for this public hearing, the ordinance that we're proposing. So we had scheduled this public hearing a couple months ago to consider an ordinance to establish a local housing trust fund. And why would we want to do that? So this last summer, the state passed in their omnibus tax bill, the statewide affordable housing aid. And Pine County has been slated to receive close to $220,000, one half in 2023, the other half in 2024. And with those funds, we have a requirement to allocate them to a project. The beauty of a local housing trust fund is that once you move those funds into the trust fund, they are considered allocated, and therefore you meet that tax law. This local housing trust fund, should you adopt an ordinance, not only does it meet that requirement, but it also creates a conduit for Pine County to start addressing some affordable housing issues. You can use the funds to develop and preserve affordable housing. You can use it to, help augment various housing projects that meet the community need for affordable housing, sometimes even called workforce housing. We had published the public hearing notice and put the draft ordinance on the website so people could review it before this public hearing, but that is the gist of what we're doing here today.
Sounds good. So we're going to open it up for public hearing and take any public testimony. Once again, we're going to open for public hearing and take any public testimony.
Do I do coin questions too?
Oh, yeah, we should do county board first, huh? Thanks,
Okay.
Matt. Does anybody have any questions for Leslie on this?
I have one, just a point, and you don't have to. So okay. I think you might have covered it, but I'm not, who is gonna manage it?
Yes, so we have drafted into the ordinance that the county board would delegate to the Pine County HRA EDA, the Housing Redevelopment Authority and Economic Development Authority, to oversee pretty much the administration of these funds and also develop the application process and the criteria.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question.
Perfect choice. Are there any other questions for Leslie? All right, now we'll open it up for public comment. I don't see any public comment either, so we're going to close the public hearing. County Board, do you have any additional discussion or comments or questions?
Madam Chair,
Steve?
I do have, this is for a 2-year period. Is that all they can do because of the legislative biennium? Is this a continuing program or is this a one-time shot, do we think?
Do you want me to grab that for you? Oh, go ahead. It's 2 years, but the bill was originally set up to be continued funding in the future, just whether that's gonna happen or not, but could be continuing.
And
Okay.
Madam Chair, Steve, the Housing Trust Fund would go on until the board took action to end it. And so state funding may fluctuate, but there's other sources of funding that can be contemplated in the future as well.
Madam Chair, just a follow-up to that. So we can delegate this money to our EDA, HRA, and then they can gather other funds from other sources and make a project become a whole project, right?
Yes,
Okay,
and we have 2 board members, county board members that sit with the group, so
right.
in the loop.
Good question, Steve.
Awesome.
Right, are there any more questions? If not, we need to consider ordinance 2024-02 establishing a housing trust fund in Pine County and authorizing the board and the county administrator to sign.
I will move that, 2024.
And I will second that motion.
Thank you, Steve. So we have a motion by Matt and a second by Steve. Are there any other questions? Not, Deb, would you do a roll call, please?
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lovegren.
Yes.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the technology report.
I can,
Go
Okay.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I can touch on that, and Ryan and David were there, they can jump in, but basically IT staff went over the list of projects that they're working on and what they hope to work on this coming year. It's an extensive list, and I think it's a ambitious list, because so many things with technology seem to take longer, when you're going to install a new program in some department's computers. It doesn't always just go the way the manual says it's going to go, and we understand that. One of their big projects is the rollover to it's something that most people won't see, but we will become .gov instead of, what are we now? .mn.us.
That's .pine.
Yeah. So we will become, our domain will be .gov, which doesn't mean diddly squat to most people, but it has to do, Ryan, help me if I get off track, but it feeds into some of our cybersecurity things that we're working on. We are a governmental agency, and we have a lot of information on a lot of people. And so we are very, very cautious, and our IT department keeps us on our toes about safeguarding anybody's information. And so that's we're a huge target. Much more so than if you own A&W. You know, we're a target-rich environment. And then we talked a little bit about AI, artificial intelligence. How is that going to be incorporated into our everyday lives as county workers? And are we ready for it? Are we going to be endorsers or naysayers? And I believe the feeling of the committee is that we have to be endorsers. We don't have to be the first one to jump on board of every new app that comes out, but we have to recognize the fact that artificial intelligence is playing a role in everybody's life, and it needs to be included in what we're doing in county government. We don't know where we're going to end up with that. Maybe if we had better artificial intelligence, we would know that, but that's about it. Unless David or Ryan have something to add.
Madam Chair, I have a question. Do we
Yeah.
have a number? Is there an average of how many times we get attacked on a daily basis or a weekly basis at the county, for trying to get attacked? Is there a number for that, or do you?
It's more than 10,000.
10,000 a day?
Yeah, it's
Morning, Becky.
it's not a small thing, and it's part of what we are as part of this statewide network, and the state has done a good job of securing some pretty good people and some pretty good software to help entities like ours fend off those attacks.
Thank you.
I just want to say my hat's off to our T department. 10,000 tries a day is nothing to sneeze at. But then the ones that go through and to fix those, and then to keep up with technology, the way it changes every minute, right? So thank you for all you guys do. Really do appreciate it. So that there's no board action required with that, but that was really good information. Thank you. Next up is Carla from the East Central Public Libraries. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm tall. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me this morning. As Terry said, I am Carla Leiden. I'm the executive director at East Central Regional Library, which is the library system that serves Pine County. I am going to see if I can make the technology work. All right. Just a little bit about who we are. We are a joint powers agreement between 6 counties, the counties of Aiken, Chisago, Mille Lacs, Kanabec, Pine, and Isanti. Formed the joint powers of East Central Regional Library to oversee the library services in those counties. As a joint powers agreement, we have an oversight by an 18-member library board, which includes 3 members appointed by Pine County, including Commissioner Lovegren. We operate 14 physical libraries in those 6 counties. We also have an outreach service, headquarters, which is in the basement of the Cambridge Library, and then also a digital library of electronic materials and databases. We employ 79 regular and substitute staff members for about a 41.5 FTE equivalent to serve all those 14 locations and those services. In the 6-county region, we serve a population of a little over 187,000 residents. 107,185 of them hold a library card as of 2022. So that's 15% of the residents. In Pine County, your library buildings are owned and maintained by your local government. So in Pine City, in Hinckley and Sandstone, which the beautiful new Sandstone Library, those local governments have own and maintain those buildings. Let's see. Thanks. A little bit about what we do. Our mission is to strengthen and connect and support those the communities that we serve. We hope to be an essential community resource that inspires East Central Minnesota to discover and explore possibilities as they build and grow community. And that our core values are operational excellence, a positive customer experience, lifelong learning, and have a community focus. Do it just once. So how do we do that? We provide access. We provide access to materials, both physical and digital, everything from books, DVDs, board games. We check out park passes to state parks. We support early literacy through things like Storytime to Go kits. We also provide community spaces. In many of our locations, we have meeting rooms, small quiet study rooms. We also provide space in those locations for people to study and learn. In all of our locations, we provide internet access, both wireless internet and through public computers. We provide enriching programs. We provide online databases and things like homework help and job resources, online classes, genealogy research. You can access car repair manuals all through our databases. And then, as I said, the programs, both live and in-person programs, as well as passive programs, things like story times, educational programs, author programs, craft programs. We do a lot of different programs throughout the course of the year. As a whole, in this is our 2022 numbers. We're working on our 2023 stats now. The region checked out a little over 765,000 materials, physical, digital, and those electronic materials in 2022. We saw over 300,000 people walk through our doors, offered a little over 1,800 programs with 43,000 people in attendance. And then that Wi-Fi or the public computer sessions, a little over 55,000 either Wi-Fi or public computer sessions. In Pine County, so that was at the whole. In Pine County, in your locations, over 61,000 materials, physical items only, were checked out in a Pine County location in 2022. Regionally, we check out over 190,000 digital materials. Unfortunately, we can't break those down by residency because it is one collection. And we're seeing a large increase in the use of that digital material collection. You also saw about 15,000 of your residents have library cards. So almost 52% of your population has a library card. And in Pine County alone, the use of internet access, we saw 5,600, please help, 5,600 wireless sessions and a little over 3,000 uses of those public computers. So I'll share a little bit about some of the things that are going on in Pine County. These are all programs or events that have happened in Pine County over the last year. Things like summer reading. The young man in the top there was a winner in the summer reading program with his ukulele as a prize. But you'll also see they're learning about the Vikings in Pine City on the top left-hand corner. They're hearing from Alex Messenger, who did our community-wide read in Sandstone down at the bottom there about his book about being attacked by a bear. Also some craft programs, an animal program up in the top right corner there is in Hinckley, where the kids were kicking off a summer reading program. So a little bit about where the money comes from to support the services that we offer. About 61% of it comes from those 6 counties, and it's in accordance with a formula, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. Pine County in 2024 will pay 15.24% of that county share. So about 9% of our total budget. We receive about 31% of our money from the state. So that regional basic support, that orange pie piece there is direct from the state of Minnesota. And then the green piece up there, the telecommunications aid, is also direct from the state of Minnesota. So about 31% of our money comes from the state of Minnesota to operate those services. We have a little bit of miscellaneous income, fines and fees, a little bit of local contracts. Some of our communities pay for additional services, and then reimbursed for some grants and things as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the value that Pine County gets for the library services based on what you pay. And I put this in your packets in some more detail, but a little bit of where your money goes as I can itemize it. The majority of it goes to staff wages and benefits. So we employ 2 people in Hinckley, 5 in Pine City, and 3 in Sandstone, and then also provide an outreach service in Duquette. That in 2022 was a little over $216,000 for those staff wages. That does take out the additional money that Pine City and Hinckley pay for extra staff support. So this is after that. We provide internet service, 100 meg service to all locations, plus that 24/7 Wi-Fi. That costs us a little over $10,000. In 2022, we added just over $433,000 in collection materials to our collection. If I divide that out by 3 branches, that's about $93,000 worth of new materials that Pine County pays for. We run a library automation system to manage all the circulation. The cost for 3 branches in that case is a little over $10,000. Those online databases I mentioned, licensing costs for that is a little over $65,000. And again, the cost for 3 branches is about $14,000. That ebook and audio digital collection, the licensing cost for the software that runs that is about $16,000. And so again, the cost for 3 branches is about $3,500. We provide copy services at all 3 locations. That's about a $3,500 expense. And then some of the legacy program, we do get state money to provide legacy program. In 2022, 14 programs were offered in Pine County location at a rough estimate of $500 per program. That's about $7,000. So an itemized value for what you're receiving is $358,172 for your 2022 contributions. You get more than that though, because we have centralized services. So that headquarters that we operate out of the that's in the basement of the Cambridge Library provides all the personnel training and management, the financial services, the filing of those state reports, and the administration of grants, and our compliance with state and federal statutes. We manage all of the collection from there. We buy all the materials. We maintain the website. We catalog those materials. We run some regional programs, manage and market all of those things. Additionally, we do all the IT. I can sympathize with 10,000 hits a day because while I don't think ours is that bad, we do spend a lot of time on IT services between procuring, administering that security and the licensing. You have access to the electronic library for Minnesota. This is some of those databases that are provided through the state and federal funding. And we run materials sharing services 4 times a week. We run services between all 14 libraries. So anything in any library is within a couple of days away. And then 5 times a week from other parts of the state. So the salary costs alone for the services that we provide out of the centralized services is just over $939,000 in 2022. Just based on a 1/6 share of that, your share is about $156,000. And the reason I break that down a little bit is to kind of give you some idea of the value that you're getting for your support of East Central Regional Library. On the left-hand side there, you can see that your contribution in 2022 was $352,603. You received an itemized value of over 358,000 plus those central services that staff support of 156,000. So on a really rough estimate, your $352,000 got you about $514,000 worth of value, not including things like licensing, computer equipment, that delivery service I mentioned. I did not break all those down because we do that for the whole region. And you can kind of see I did some per capita expenditures there to some of your neighbors or some that are comparable. In 2022, you paid $12.11, so a couple of cups of coffee for per capita for library services. On a whole, ECRL paid $11.97. So when I put all 6 counties together, you can see like to your north, Moose Lake is $23.83 per capita. Duluth is paying almost $55 per capita or over $55 per capita. Great River Regional Library, which is headquartered out of St. Cloud and is very similar to us, is $17.19 per capita. So for that small expense, you're getting a lot of value to your citizens. I wanted to talk a little bit about what determines your contribution to East Central Regional Library. There are a couple of things that come into play. There's a maintenance of effort, which is your state required minimum. In 2011, this amount was frozen. It has not increased in going on 15 years. It is $256,664. It's actually based on support from 2009. I went back and looked at records. As far back as I can find records, in 2006, you were actually paying more than that $256,000 for services there. So I'm not exactly sure how the state calculates that, but I do know it has been frozen and has not increased in almost 15 years. That's kind of the floor or the threshold or the floor. I think of it a little bit like minimum wage. Minimum wage has not gone up in many years. Federal minimum wage is something like $7 an hour, $7.25 an hour. You should all know that you can't hire people for $7.25 an hour anymore. The other thing that plays into what determines Pine County's contribution to East Central Regional Library is the joint powers agreement that you have signed. All 6 counties agreed to a formula that is based on 1/3 tax capacity, 1/3 population, and 1/3 the borrower circulation by the county of residence. So in other words, you pay only for Pine County use, Pine County residents use of the library. Even if someone from Kanabec is coming up here and using the library, you're not paying for them, Kanabec is paying for them. Also in that joint powers agreement, it talks about that should any member approve lower than its required share of the approved budget, that library services to that member shall be reduced correspondingly so as not to restrict development of library services in the remaining member counties. So I know that there has been talk, or there's talk from time to time about the state says we only need to pay that $256,000 and you're asking for more to provide those services. If we were to look at reductions in services, if you moved back to a state minimum requirement, I would need to cut something like $112,000 out of the services that we provide to Pine County residents. I did run some numbers, looked at some situations, and I think we would be looking at a reduction of about 60% of hours of service in Pine County with that type of a cut. Likely would mean we would close a branch. I should say not likely. We would have to close a branch. We would have to cease outreach service in Duquette. And then your remaining 2 libraries would go from some 30-ish hours a week, 30 to 40 hours a week to something like 20 to 24 hours a week. Lots has changed since 2011 and we can't provide services at that minimum level of support anymore.
Can I ask you a question, Carla?
Yeah.
Sorry to get you off track.
No, you're fine.
So you're saying that if we only pay what the state requires,
Yes.
that we would close a branch plus the other branches would be cut down in hours?
Yes,
to like
yes. So right now you have 1 branch that's open 43 hours a week, 2 branches Hinckley's open 30 and Sandstone's open 29. Some of that is Pine City and Hinckley pay for some additional hours. But according to my rough calculations, you'd be looking at 2 branches open 20 to 24 hours a week
Okay, thank
and
you.
losing one, yeah. So, and ceasing that outreach service, so. So I hope some of that answers some of the questions about how the money is used. I think my last slide here was questions, so you jumped ahead a little bit for me, but I'm happy to answer questions you may have about any of that or anything else about the library.
Does anybody have any questions for Carla?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JJ.
So we pay extra. What do the other counties pay extra?
So you pay in accordance with the formula in the joint powers agreement. The only other county is they're all paying extra beyond their state minimum level of support, if that's what if you consider that extra. You're paying in a
Right.
yeah. Pine City and Hinckley, when I said provide some extra support, those city governments are providing some extra open hours in their library by providing some extra funding.
Right. We pay 120,000, and what does Pine City pay? Like 1,000?
Pine City, not off the maybe I do. No,
Yeah, you have it.
I don't have it off the top of my head what Pine City is paying, but they're paying less than 10,000. I think they're $9,000 a year for 2 extra hours of service. Hinckley pays something similar for just a couple.
Does Aiken pay an extra 100? Can pay an extra 120,000 a year.
Aiken County definitely pays probably something like 100,000, and I don't know all the maintenance of efforts off the top of my head. I can get that for you. But yeah, they're all paying probably 100,000 or more over. Chisago County in particular is paying several $100,000 over the maintenance or minimum.
I think Aiken was just below this, weren't they?
JJ, maybe I can help here. The maintenance of effort is a state minimum. And the Joint Powers Board has determined this is how much it takes to run the libraries the way we want them to be run in our communities. And then in Pine County's case, the city that the library exists in provides the library space. And so if that city says we'd like 3 or 4 more hours a week, 5 more hours a week, we'll pay the extra for that. But there is no county in the Joint Powers Agreement that is paying just the state maintenance of effort.
That is correct.
You can call it extra if you want, but it's really the budget.
Yeah, and that's that joint powers agreement that you agreed to in, it was last signed in 2010, but it dates back to 1959 originally. But that is your agreement on how you will work together to provide services in those 6 counties. And Commissioner Hallen is correct. There is no one paying their, just the state minimum of the 6 counties.
I can say that at our last library board meeting, that was brought up too, because Isani and Chisago were paying a lot of money to have the library service, and they would like us to pay more. The Joint Powers Agreement, the way that that's spread out, I believe it's really fair. And it came out after that meeting, or during that meeting, that the way that it's figured with the per capita and the usage and the
It's
tax capacity.
tax capacity, so your ability to pay your population, and then also the use of your residents. And the only way we can measure that is really by circulation of physical materials.
So it was determined at the meeting by all the commissioners that were in there that that was really fair. But like I said, Isani and Chisago, Isani probably more so are really concerned because their population is growing like crazy.
Yeah.
And so, they'll be paying a little bit more, but.
Yeah, and so your percentages in that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 formula, fluctuate a little bit from year to year, but they're pretty consistent. Like I said, you're paying 15%. Whoops. You have been paying, well, actually, your percentage has gone down. You've paid as much as like 16.25% over the years, and you're down to 15.25. So it's, some of that is, how does that relate to everyone else?
Madam Chair, that's 15% of the entire budget. What is that?
It's 15% of the county share, so it's about 9% of the total budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve?
I think I heard you say that in all of those stats you had in the use of the collection, that the digital use, and that I use audiobooks, that's conglomerated with everybody in East Central Regional Library. Is
It
that
is.
what I you say? Okay.
Yeah, the software that runs that program cannot differ, at least at this point in time, can't differentiate it enough to say that it's a Pine County resident or a Aiken County resident. It's all together. And the use of that has skyrocketed up, obviously, in the last 4 years.
That's just a license.
It's an awesome service, and I would give kudos to the people that have helped me in the Pine City branch get used to using that.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it is both a licensing fee for the software, to your question, and it is also then we buy the material.
Right.
Talk about unfair, it costs us probably 3 to 4 times the amount to buy materials as it does. Like, you can buy something on Amazon for $9.99, it may cost us $50 or $60. And then sometimes the licensing goes away. Like, you can only circulate it 26 times and then you have to buy a new copy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's different licensing, different publishers, and yes.
Interesting.
And since we're talking about, Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, JJ.
we haven't been on the subject of the library, which I associate with books and dictionary. I just wanted to point out, you got Cloquet spelled wrong and you got Carlton spelled wrong.
My apologies.
Are there any other questions for Carla?
Nope.
I appreciate what you do, Carla. It's a pretty awesome service we have.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the time this morning to hear about the library, and I'm always happy to come back and talk again if you'd like.
Well, I have to add that Josh called me this morning to tell me that he couldn't be here today. And the part that really bummed him out was he wouldn't be here to see you. He said to tell you hi and that he misses you and to thank you for everything that you do, and that he really appreciates our library system and is a huge supporter. So
Great.
From Josh, hello and thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Now we have a presentation from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. I think he's working on popping something up. My name is Danielle DeVito. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I am our regulatory coordinator and oversee all of the quarantines and regulations with invasive pests in the state of Minnesota. So I'm here today to talk about our spongy moth proposals across the state. So if you are not aware, just briefly, these are some of the things we're going to talk about today. Go through a little bit of background so you understand why I'm presenting about a pest to you today and some of that concern, and go through those topics. Spongy moth is a new name. It is not a new pest. It changed in 2021. They decided to rename it at a national level. And so now it is spongy moth. You may have heard it as gypsy moth before, just so you're aware.
Thank you.
Yeah. I offer that clarity on the phone all the time. So it is the same insect, just a different name. All right, let's go through some background real quick on here so you know why I'm actually presenting to you today. This is the spongy moth on here. We have a male and a female, the scientific name. One of the reasons it's such a huge concern is it is a defoliator. And so that means caterpillars are eating the leaves and they defoliate our trees and they cause stress. They eat a high volume. In the 6 weeks that it takes for a caterpillar to grow, it's going to eat up to a square foot of leaves in a day. So take that box, packet full of leaves. One caterpillar is going to eat that many leaves. So if there's a lot of caterpillars isolated to an area, we can have defoliation in our forests and nuisance in our towns and cities. How did it get here? This moth was introduced on the East Coast in the late 1800s. It's slowly making its way across the United States. It is a federally regulated pest, so Minnesota Department of Ag, we are obligated to help U.S. Forest Service manage the pest. In Minnesota, we've been tracking since the 70s and been conducting aerial application treatment since the 80s. In Minnesota, Lake and Cook County are under federal and state quarantine. That's putting restrictions on what can and can't move out of those counties. And now we're about 2/3 probably of Wisconsin as this pest is moving westward across the nation. So why do we care some more? Here's the female and the male. The females, she cannot fly. She's large. When she comes out of her pupa casing, she is like the size of my thumb, so full of eggs, she cannot fly. The male is the only one that can fly. And so since she can't fly, the only way we can survey across the state is with pheromones, and we detect male populations in the presence of male moths across the state. You may have seen traps. I think I got a picture up here too of a trap. But more of the life stage here, most common is what we're going to see is an egg mass. We don't often get citizens that are like, oh, well, I never saw those flying around at night. They're day flyers. So they're going to fly during the day when they're out, but they're in their egg masses majority of the year. So we're talking in this part of the state where they're in egg masses from that August all the way up until June. And that's in that top right corner. The caterpillars, we have June through August as well. They grow pretty quickly, and those are some pictures. They have distinctive dots on their back, as you'll see. Our pupas and our adult flyers. So they're only in moth form for approximately like 10 to 14 days. But so you see those other pictures, and we have the female just isn't moving, but the most destructive is those caterpillars. There is the beautiful caterpillar, very distinctive with those dots. It's got those sets of blue and red dots on its back. The other side is what those little tiny caterpillars are when they hatch out. Each of those egg masses is anywhere from 500 to 1,000 eggs. Probably about, again, if I had my thumb and kind of squished something down, that's about the size of those egg masses. And those caterpillars, because they eat so much, they grow so fast. When they initially hatch out in those little ones, and there's lots of them there, I like to think, oh, yes.
Can we ask the question?
Yep.
So is that a diagnostic then, the 6 reds and 5 blues?
It absolutely, it's a telltale, yes,
So if we
there's
see
no.
that, we should make a notification or something?
Yeah, absolutely. Report a pest that we operate through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture.
So report it and then kill it? No.
No,
Okay, move on, sorry.
that's okay. I mean, yeah, if you want. But it is something that we do really appreciate as citizens report those to us. Absolutely, when they see them. I'll talk about the populations in a few more slides and where we're seeing those across the state as well. Multiply really fast, back on track here. Those caterpillars are very small. So over a 6-week time period, they're going to go through 6 different instars, we call it. On the one side, they're like tip of your pinky fingernail, and they're going to grow up to 3.5 inches. So in those 6 weeks, that caterpillar is going to grow that fast and consume that much. And because the females don't fly, perfect world, half of those eggs are going to come out as female. That means half of those are going to be stationary in one tree, causing infestations at some point in time in high populations. The only way that they can naturally move is through the wind dispersal. So when they're really little, those are actually caterpillars on little silk threads. They climb up to the top, and with the wind, they can kind of move. That's the only way that they're naturally moving on their own. One of the other reasons they eat a lot, well, they're not specific. So there's certain pests that will only, if you've ever heard of emerald ash borer only is going to feed on ash trees. However, spongy moth will feed on 300 different varieties of trees. In the absence of our deciduous trees, our leafed out trees, they feed them all out. They will feed on our conifers as well. Conifers do not regrow their needles. So when they feed on these trees, if this occurs multiple years in a row, it's really going to stress that tree out, which leaves it susceptible to further disease. So it's a #1 forest pest in the United States. That's a picture of widespread defoliation on here. When you look at it, that brownish looking area across the center, that should be all lush and green tree canopy. Instead, it's been defoliated by spongy moth. It defoliates over 1 million acres annually across the United States. And then we also, not just our forest, we have some human concerns as well. There's a picture of a deck. If you had a tree hanging over your deck, well, when you consume a lot, what comes out the other side? We have frass. So that's a big nuisance. As a homeowner, as citizens, have you seen the forest tent caterpillars when they're in high populations? Kind of similar where you have a lot of them around, but this will cause leaf litter and then a lot of frass across your driveways and your decks and your homes and everything can impact your property values. If that's the case, killing your trees. There's the little lawn gnome guy. It's creepy. I feel like it should be in a horror movie with a bunch of caterpillars on it. And then quarantine is down the road, and that really impacts all of our industry. So those are some of those human impacts on that. Where is the spongy moth in the distribution? We have a national map here. Everything in dark blue is what is considered under quarantine. So you can kind of see that westward front moving across. Right up where we are right now in Pine County, you can see there's a light green bar. That's what we're going to call is the action area. Managing this pest is a huge federal joint cooperative group, involves 11 different states, US Forest Service, USDA, as well as multiple universities doing research, and they manage all of our data. So it's a huge group cooperative effort to manage this pest. Looking at that, so we have the action area, and that's an area where we're actively trying to slow the spread of this pest. How is it continuing to spread? Humans are, because that female is not flying, it's human assisted movement through all sorts of avenues. Our firewood, household moves. If you're leaving a quarantined area, you have to self-inspect. If you're moving out of Lake County, you need to inspect all your patio furniture, your four-wheelers, your lawnmowers. You go camping, you go up North Shore, you should be inspecting your tent and your camper, and all of those things are part of also with the recreation tourism industry. All of these items, those all have egg masses. #1 way it is spread. Another thing that's regulated is the holiday greenery, and then our industry and visitors from those blue areas that are quarantined. So that's how we're helping, I guess not helping, us humans are helping it spread across the country. So why am I here today? Let's talk about our management, what we're doing. I mentioned STS, it's our Slow the Spread program. The goal is to reduce that spread of spongy moth by 60% annually. There's a couple different figures of what's the predicted spread without, what is the predicted spread with, and that takes into account all of these states as well. The gray area is the current. So here are detection traps. You may have seen those little cardboard traps about 7 inches long. If you drew the state of Minnesota, the entire eastern half is trapped on a grid. We deploy about 20,000 of these survey detection traps. They just are baited with the pheromone strip, and the moths fly in. If we have high unusual catches, it is our first line of defense to detect where it is. We can go out to those sites and further look for other evidence of life stages. So when I look at here, this is our Krigg survey on, it says 2022, it's population heat, where are the really high catches. If you look at 2022 in Minnesota, we can see all the way up the North Shore a little bit, but your county's green. Everywhere that's yellow on there was our detection traps were placed but didn't catch anything. So you see 2022, and then we look at 2023, and now we are starting to have some dark blue, that the heat maps kind of lighting up a little bit throughout Pine and Carlton and St. Louis County. And this was our results from last year. Again, looking at a heat map, how many of these individual moths were caught in this area? I have for each, we have 100 times increase between each of all of these countries. So we've isolated areas maybe that this is becoming a problem. So what I'm here is to present a proposal that we are going to proposing for a treatment to help manage this pest across 7 counties. This is something we've been doing in Minnesota since 1980. I have way down in the south, you can see And back to the library, all these counties around us, Isanti, Chisago, Pine, Carlton, and St. Louis, as well as some acres. And I'm going to show you exactly some of the areas in your county of concern with where we're having these. So here is what we are proposing for Pine County. We're proposing this mating disruption treatment. And on the map, there's 3 blocks that are outlined, just Pine 1, 2, and 3. Hinckley, around St. Croix State Park, and then right along over by Danbury along the Wisconsin border as well. That's roughly, well, 46,000-ish acres that we're proposing to conduct management on. And management, I'm gonna zoom in a little. I've changed my maps around so you could see exactly what we were looking at from the form one. It didn't present so great. So I'll actually have zoom in on each of these. So if we go in, here's Hinckley. We are proposing to early apply for a mating disruption on 9,200 acres with our mating disruption that is 1,166 parcels, not mailboxes. I don't have my mailbox number ran. You know, 'cause some people own land, maybe not live there, situation. And currently we're looking at early to mid-July for what we're proposing here. And then we have over there's zoomed in again, St. Croix State Park, roughly, you know, a little over 9,000 acres as well. Only 53 parcels in this area. Most of that would be state land as well. And then the other one is, you see Danbury on the bottom right there along the border. And here is a larger block that is 27,000 acres, but still only 635 parcels. So what does this mean? If you want to know where these are, we do have an interactive map I can give you in your packet. There are some print maps. They don't look like they came out awesome. So we do always have this public facing, our treatment map. So anyone can go on here and look where they are, see what's going on, punch in your address, it'll zoom you right into where those areas are. Plus you can click on each of those and get a little bit more information. So I mentioned that this is a proposal and a treatment aerial application. So what are we looking at? This is an aircraft. This is an air tractor right here. All of those different counties, we're talking 170,000 acres across the state. And we're talking in mid-July. And what these aircrafts do is we're looking to do a mating disruption. So those females cannot fly. So what we would do is we apply a pheromone and basically it disrupts the natural mating of those males and females. It's flooding the area with the female hormone. So those males can't find the actual ones on the trees. What the product that would be used is called Splat GMO. It's an EPA certified organic. It's a non-toxic, made with food grade chemicals. I don't have a chapstick in my pocket, but roughly about 6 grams is a little bit more than chapstick. Per acre is the application rate. And it basically has like a waxy kind of carrier. Comes down in little tiny droplets that's applied from these aircrafts flying about 100 feet above our treetops. It's specific to spongy moth. It's not toxic to any kind of water or bees, humans, pets, animals, all of that. It does break down as well. So it is applied to the treetops and some falls down, but most of its idea is to catch it where the moths are and just confuses those males. One of the things when we put these proposals out is I come and present to all of our local government units across the state, county commissioners, whoever is that local governing body, our city councils, if it's incorporated townships, try to inform you prior to moving forward with all of these. A postcard will be going out to all of your citizens that are within those block areas. So on the right-hand side, that's what it'll look like. It has a picture of our aircraft. On the back side, it's going to say, hey, here's some of the information. Here's a QR code to get to that map, as well as I will be planning and hosting public meetings too. So I'll do an open house where your citizens can come and give some input and learn a little bit about what's going on. So it's extremely huge notification process. So not just letting people know this, it's that postcard. Do these meetings, we send another postcard roughly 2 weeks before to remind everyone, because if you heard it in February, you're going to remember in the middle of July that this is occurring. We do post in the newspapers. I work with all emergency management services when these are going to occur as well. do a media blitz. So when this is, we try to do lots of social media, reach out to all the papers, all the news channels and everything, because it really helps. If your county also has a public information officer, that would be good to know as well. We have email and text notifications. So another way, when your citizens want to know that this is occurring, they can absolutely sign up and receive a text the night before. This is going to occur tomorrow. Text in the morning, this is going to occur, and hey, we're completed. We also staff a report a pest hotline. So that is all leading up to, and then again, during, we also staff a hotline so someone can call and talk to someone immediately if they're wondering what's going on. Mentioned earlier, report a pest right there. Minnesota Department of Ag operates report a pest. Any kind of tree or pest or disease or firewood question, whatever on those, you can call. We have a form on there. You can send an email that comes into MDA and we send it out to that subject matter expert, even across if it is DNR. So we always recommend report a pest, no matter concern on pests. So it's the best way to get to us. Environmental assessment. So part of this process, when we put these proposals out across the nation, is doing a full environmental assessment. When we do these environmental assessments, there's a portion on our public scoping. How am I informing you? How am I informing my citizens? It'll be open for public comment as well. And so all of that is reviewed before it is signed. All of the states involved do one as well. So it is something that is thoroughly shared. All the impacts and everything have all been scoped out. That will be accessible. It is not yet, but it will be posted to our site. On our site, you can go and make a public comment on these. That is right there. It's got public comment, and then there's a spot right there where you can input any kind of public comments. My contact is all in there. This is our little catch-all on the top of our site. QR codes will bring you to that from postcards. So it's specifically treatments day of what's going on. And most importantly, I really like the interactive maps. So that is what that top page looks like on that website as well. All right, I talked fast. I think I went over my time. I apologize. Any questions?
I want to say,
I-
I know there's a lot of organic farmers that are out in this area.
Yes.
Bob lives in this area. So it's, I know, and I'm like right on the edge. I mean, I think if you go over a little bit on section 1,
Mhm.
the first one, that you'll be at my house, which is fine. Thank you. I've seen the traps and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for coming here and letting us know what you're doing so that we can inform our citizens too. Steve, were you going to say something?
Did we treat for gypsy moths a few years ago?
Yes.
I thought we did around Hinckley, right?
At north of Hinkley and along the river and Government Road.
Yes, I
Okay.
believe it was actually a couple of years ago. I think it was 2017. I didn't look up past ones. I apologize for this kind, but I want to say a glance and I think it was 17.
Okay, I know it was a while.
Yeah.
Was that the same kind of treatment?
Yes.
Okay.
He sprayed.
Can you add a little something to take care of the Asian beetles?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, I can't do anything about that one.
Nice.
How did they get here?
I don't know. You're gonna have to Google that, sir. That one is not federally or state regulated by me.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming today.
thank you. Have a good day.
Next, we're gonna go to the gray wolf discussion. And we're gonna consider sending a letter of support for legislation to Amy Klobuchar, which is where I believe the next step is. And so I would like to say that both Matt and I attended Pete Stauber's meeting that he had up in Willow River. It was supposed to be in Sandstone at our government center there, but it was so large, they figured there were going to be so many people that they moved it to the Willow River High School, and it was packed. There were people in the hallways. There's a lot of people. It's interesting because the farmers have been after this for a long time to get something done because we're losing cattle. We personally have lost 3 this year, already 3 calves. So, you know, we've been crying for a while, but now that it's affecting the deer, the hunters are jumping on and we're going to get something done, it sounds like. But Matt, do you want to talk a little bit about that meeting and what your thoughts were?
I can. I think the most interesting thing I heard was the impact to the farmers. And the numbers were much more than. And then the other, yeah, there was a lot going on. And then there was comments by an ex-DNR official too, which was interesting. On just how they survey. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and he's actually one of our senators now.
Yeah.
That was the one that was at the table.
Yeah.
He's from.
Yeah.
I can't think where he's from, but I know Nathan Nelson was talking and he had said that they had over 50 wolves trapped at this place within the last, was it 2 years or 3 years?
It was 2 to 3.
2 to 3, yeah. So I mean, that's a lot of wolves that he had to get out of there because they've been losing their animals too. So we do have a problem and it's affecting our farmers and their cattle. We've had a lot of cattle loss in our area, which is why we're bringing this forward today. Did everybody have a chance to read?
Yeah,
I just think there's a lot of impact to this. Both hits the farmer and I know Steve and I have talked about this. It can also hit the deer hunter. And we have a lot of deer cabin properties
Yes, we
in
do.
Pine County. So, and I feel the same way about chronic wasting disease too, will have an impact.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be coming out too. I wrote some stuff down.
But this hits the livelihood of the farmers hard, the ranchers, where you want to call them, the beef.
I'm trying to find my notes on.
There's been pets taken by these wolves also.
Oh, a lot of pets have been going,
Yeah.
they've been disappearing. So from what I understand from being at that meeting was that we have Congress support to delist the gray wolves and to be able to hunt them. But we need to get Senate support. And I got an email from Pete Stauber yesterday. If you guys sign up for his updates, you would have gotten that also. And he was saying the same thing, that we really need to get that support so that we can do this. The meeting was put on by Hunters for Hunters, which was really interesting because it's two teams that put this group together, because they just believe that it's an important thing to do. So I thought that was interesting. I think they were 11.
Yeah.
It was his dad that was talking. But I mean, that's pretty impressive that you got two 11-year-old kids that love the outdoors so much that they put a Hunters to Hunters group together.
I had another point I want to make too.
Oh, go ahead.
The bill that, or what they want to change it to says if the level gets to 1,500 in the entire wolf area, in Minnesota and northern Wisconsin and Michigan, is it included? But I don't think they have different populations in each state, but they each have a level that they'll have. Then wherever the population gets to, like the 1,500, I think is a threshold for Minnesota. Then if they have a season or whatever, however they do the management, it's going to end at that number. So nobody wants to wipe the wolf out. You know, it wasn't that, and farmers are all in support of that also. But they know the numbers are higher than that 1,500.
Doesn't say the DNR says that the numbers are here, but in all reality, the numbers are quite a bit
Right.
more.
I think that's been the bugaboo for a while. Numbers don't seem to add up.
And Senator Klobuchar supports the 1,500 threshold. She signed on to the last one when it happened at that 1,500. So
Right, and then didn't some judge put the listing back on?
Yes.
but that was what that was what we learned at the meeting, was
Right.
the statute or what they're putting forward, the change. It's been tested out west. They're using the exact same language that they use in
Okay,
the states, and
okay.
it's in the court already, and it's upheld.
okay, sounds good.
They also said Minnesota has 50% of the gray wolves from the whole lower 48 states.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got, actually, it came out later that we have more than 50%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got the majority of the wolf population here in Minnesota. So are there any other discussion on this? Questions?
I'd make the motion to support this, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So are you making a motion to send the letter to Senator Klobuchar then to JJ? We're
Yes,
not.
ma'am.
Okay, we're not gonna do it through Hunters for Hunters because in all honesty, we don't know everything that Hunters to Hunters stands for. So we're gonna be sending it right to Amy Klobuchar and we will, I'm thinking, let Hunters to Hunters know that we did that and that we supported that, just so that they know where the counties are at. But our letter will go directly to
She has
Senator
that.
Klobuchar.
And the only information, of course, we have then is this letter that's already been written, a template to Klobuchar. So I imagine we'll be able to see a draft, correct, Madam Chair, before it gets sent?
Don't you, there was a copy of the letter in your packet, JJ?
Correct. But it's from Hunters to Hunters.
No, there's one, I can't show you the way you can show me. There's one that's from Pine County to Honorable Amy Klobuchar.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll look for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome. So we have a motion to send the letter to Senator Klobuchar. Do we have a second?
I will second. Madam
Thanks,
Chair.
Matt. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Thank you for your support. Deb, would you do a roll call, please?
District 3, Chair Lövgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The farmers in our area are really going to appreciate you as well as the people that hunt, so that's good. Law enforcement notification to civilian governing body and local communities. Were you going to present something on this or?
Did you, again?
All right, let me get past Hunters to Hunters here. Why don't you just give a real quick?
So basically what it is a acknowledgement and support, I guess, for us to look for some of the items that are listed on there as the controlled items from the federal government. Basically, it's military surplus process under a different name, I suppose. But I need to notify the local governing board that we're intending to attempt to get some of those items. And I'll update you on those items when they become available and it becomes more of a reality. So at this point, we are looking at a up armored Humvee that would allow us a smaller vehicle to keep our people safe in those instances when we might need some armor.
How do you maintain that? Who maintains it? If stuff, that's the expensive side after you get it.
Yeah, there is, it's through Mark and with our fleet on the diesel engines, the tires, those kind of things that we're able to do in-house, and then a diesel shop on any of the other stuff that needs to be outsourced. This is what we've been doing with the MRAP. That's what we've been doing with the MRAP. So the MRAP was under the same kind of a program.
Do you think about that when you buy the stuff? That's what I'm thinking, because it's.
Yep, there will be some costs for what we get out of it. The MRAP hasn't been too terrible, and as soon as I say that, I won't have a number for you, so I apologize for that. We got tires on, we bought some tires, but now we've also acquired some through a surplus. So those were shipping to get them here. So and it'd be the same thing in the Humvee. Obviously, there's some specialized equipment in those. You know, and if you look at the list, we put everything that was controlled on the list. We're not going to get any of the aircraft, so won't let that alter your judgment on this one. So
I support the thing, Jeff. I just want to do, if you think about the cost of maintaining some of that bigger stuff over
Right.
time, that's all. Are you thinking about that at the time when you?
yes. And again, I don't have a number what that means, but we obviously will take it into consideration. We're not going to go out and buy stuff or ask for stuff that we don't need, and any of those situations don't make sense to me. And that's why I pointed out the list. We just put everything on the list so then we don't have to come back. If we forgot to put one of those on the list that we decided we wanted. So,
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank
yes.
you, Sheriff.
Appreciate this. It looks like a good deal.
So Madam Chair, are you looking for a motion?
Actually, Dave was gonna say something real quick first.
I was gonna say exactly that. If you wanted to proceed, a motion to acknowledge the notification from the sheriff would be in order.
There you go, Steve.
I'll make that motion.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thanks, Matt. So we got a first and second. Anybody have any more questions for Jeff while he's here? All right, Deb, would you do a roll call, please?
District Chair Lefgren,
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham,
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig,
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Next, we have the emergency aid restricted accounts. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, and
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Members of the board, Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So this is one of those things that came out of the strategic planning. So in the strategic planning, Jeff had brought up that one thing that his deputies and the first responders are sometimes faced with in the field are these emergency situations, such as housing, that need to be addressed not during business hours. And the deputies at this point and first responders are left taking care of these things out of their own pockets. And so the idea was born that potentially we could create a fund within the county so that some of these things could be addressed. Jeff could give some examples of when those situations come up. I think I had talked to Becky about it too. Sometimes, people are not to the level of needing to go to the jail, but they're needing to get out of the situation they're in. And it's not business hours, so they can't go through some of those services and things. And in that process, we also discussed that this very well could be just supported through donations. So at this point, I've set up the accounts in our financial system, a donation account and an expense account. You would need to restrict those accounts, so any donations that come in have to be spent for those services. To get this up and running, there are some more steps in that obviously we need to solicit donations. And then we do need a written policy regarding when the funds could be used, how they'll be used, that type of thing. And then also with a local hotel, we likely would need to get an account set up so that
sorry, I was gonna, yeah.
yeah, so that it can be paid, it can be charged on an invoice rather than having a county credit card or something. So we'll need to kind of work through those processes, but really the first step is to get these accounts set up so that we can start running through those processes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I completely support this program. In my career, I think it's more than 10. Minimum of 10, where I shelled money out of my wallet as an officer. And every time I was paid back, you just give them, they have your card or give me your name or whatever. I always got a letter back. Sometimes it was 2 years later, sometimes it was 3 in a card or Christmas, but I always got it back. And
From a random citizen? Or-
from people broke down people broke down on the freeway. You had to get them off. They had no place to stay. Nobody were traveling, and arrests where people left over, like you say, and they just needed some money for something. It was never a lot, but it's, $20 here, $20 there, whatever. But I always got it back. I never got burned. I know, I couldn't believe it. But it is an important thing because sometimes it's more money than a guy has in his wallet, to put them up somewhere, but.
That unplanned expense.
Yeah.
My question is, if we've got somebody that's up in Willow River versus somebody that's down here in Pine City, are we gonna have a couple different hotels that will have vouchers?
I think those are processes we need to work through still, because it's gonna be a matter of, are those businesses really willing to work with us and are they willing to set it up? Huh?
I just know what a hardship it is if you're in Willow River and all of a sudden you're down in Hinckley and then you have to get back home again, that gets to be a thing. And I would like to say, thank you to all of your officers for being willing to fork out some of your own money. That's not always an easy thing to do, but, I just think over and over how much our employees do over and above to help our public, which is huge in so many of our departments. And so, but thank you to your officers for stepping up and doing that. Does anybody else have any questions or concerns or comments?
I think it's wonderful.
We need a motion.
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
All right, in a second.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Matt and a second by Steve. We are going to be restricting account number 01-201-5765 for donations, emergency aid, and 01-201-6865 expense emergency aid. Would you do a roll call, please?
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
All right.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lovegren.
Aye.
Thank you.
Child Care Center Development Professional Services Agreement, which is going to be presented by Leslie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Almost afternoon, huh? So in front of you is, a request to have your approval to execute a professional service agreement with, an individual who gave us a proposal to help basically, work with Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, the school district and ourselves to get a childcare center up and running in the Hinckley area. The background on this information is a couple years prior to this. So back in 2021, First Children's Finance was commissioned to do a childcare needs assessment of Pine County and several surrounding counties. And we assisted with the surveys and connecting them up with existing providers and parents and employers so that their study could be kind of put together. Well, the study came out and there was this pent-up demand for over 500 childcare slots in Pine County. The majority of those are in the Hinckley Finlayson School District. And as we, reviewed that plan, First Children's Finance was also given a grant to help communities plan around what that study told us. So Chair Lovegren, you participated in some of those meetings and it was very community-based and it was, over Zoom, but we figured out like what can we do as a community to help bring additional childcare slots to Pine County? And some of those ideas were maybe we need an association, maybe we need more training, maybe we need more financing. And kind of organically through that process, we've kind of sussed out all the details and we partnered with Child Care Aware and Pine Technical and Community College this fall to do a nice training. I think it was a 1.5-day training at the end of September for incoming childcare providers or existing providers. It's a one-stop shop where they can get all their trainings done so that they can maintain their license. But then we also kept plugging along, like, can we find a spot where a center can go? Because centers can add 60 to 70 additional slots, boom, once it's open. We're still trying to figure out how to recruit and retain family childcare providers because that's also a very important asset to have to fill these slots. However, we have identified a couple different locations in the Hinckley Finlayson School District area, one of them being a building owned by Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, which they received a federal EDA grant to turn into a business incubator. So they have the funds to construct the site or redevelop the site. We need the expertise to guide them through turning it into a childcare center. Once it's turned into a childcare center, they are hoping to attract a provider to that space where they can incubate their brand new business and open up a center for the Hinckley Finlayson School District area. So that is what is in front of you, is an agreement to work with someone who has helped open a couple centers in Pine County. I had worked with her with the St. Mary's Catholic School renovation, and she also worked with the city of Sandstone with Corey Kids prior to them getting that completely up and running. So she has experience setting it up, coming in, getting it set up, and then backing out and letting people run it for themselves for what they need it to be, whether it's for profit or nonprofit. So I'm excited to work with her again. I think it will really help this project stay on track and actually get it to opening day.
I've heard really good things about Anna too, that, and you hear from both of those daycare centers that they're doing, well, Sandstone, I hear more from Sandstone that they're doing really well, that
Yeah.
it's just a good facility and was done right, so.
Yep. And so we're proposing to use the remaining balance of our Initiative Foundation grant. So we received about $10,000 from the Initiative Foundation to implement our plan. And we didn't use much for the training, so we have about $9,800 left. And then we will supplement that with some ARPA funds that were earmarked for childcare. And this will get this contract out the door and moving forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Leslie? Right, if we don't have any questions, can we?
I have a question.
Go ahead, JJ.
Now, what's this building location that's you mentioned here? What's the address? Where's that at in Hinckley?
It is I don't have the address off the top of my head, but it's the Toby's Mill building that's behind Toby's.
You know where Antique America was?
Okay. I assume people research the statutes of the location, if it's allowed to have a daycare at that address.
Well, we researched the local zoning and that is kind of what slowed the project down for a couple months, is that the city had to make an amendment to their zoning code because childcares weren't prohibited, but they weren't allowed either. It was one of those. It happens a lot in local code where you didn't prohibit the use, but you also didn't allow it. So they worked through their planning commission and it's now an allowed use.
Is it fair
Were
to
the
say?
state statutes looked into, Leslie, in relation to that
That parcel,
location? Correct.
I'm not aware of any state statutes that would prohibit it from that location.
It would go with the zoning, which is commercial.
Correct. Yeah.
They've been looking into, is it safe to say it's been a year? My years are kind of a blur lately.
Yeah, same. So locally here with our local group, we've been working on it for about a year.
Right.
We developed the plan in 2022. We started implementing it in 2023, and yeah, we're getting to the final stages of implementation. Our initiative foundation grant expires, got an extension, but it expires at the end of June, so.
And it's with Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, who always goes above and beyond for any of the projects that they do to make sure that it's appropriate and going to be a good fit.
Yep.
So I know that Hinckley Finlayson, we've lost teachers because they can't get childcare. So I mean, we do have an issue.
Yeah, it's over 150 daycare slots just in the Hinckley Finlayson School District that are needed. And that's for children ages 5 and under. So that's not even tapping into your school agers. And I think we had a meeting yesterday, it's worth sharing. Did Nikki say there was like 30 family childcare providers in Pine County? 19 of them are concentrated in the Pine City area.
Mhm.
So we really need to start figuring out how to entice and recruit people into the family childcare business, Hinckley and North, to fill those slots. So more to come on that though, but this is focused on the childcare
This
center.
is today.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Leslie? All right, so we've got a professional service agreement in front of us. Do we have a motion to accept it?
I'll move the professional agreement.
Steve, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. So we have a first and a second. Once again, any more comments or questions? All right, Deb, could you do a roll call, please?
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lefgren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
You're muted, JJ.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I abstain from the vote.
All right, motion carried. We have the amended or the addition of 8.1, the road hearing or the road in Arna Township. Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. So you heard this morning in the public comment portion from Mr. Brewster regarding this impassable road written complaint that we received. And Reese has reviewed it. We've reviewed the statutes together. So basically at this point, we've received the written complaint. It meets the statutory requirements for the written complaint. So the next step would be to move into deciding how we will hold that hearing. So in the statute, it does allow you to hold it as more of an administrative hearing with an administrative officer with testimony being given under oath. And considering kind of the nature of things that have been going on in Arna Township, it would be my recommendation to move forward that way rather than at the traditional public hearing. And so today we were just hoping to discuss if that's the way that the board would like to go. I did prepare a resolution for you to set the time and place for that hearing. However, maybe that would be a little premature, not knowing if we are going to move forward with the hearing officer, what their availability would be.
Madam Chair.
Just a second, Matt's going, Steve.
Okay.
Oh, my question is, do we have two Do we have to do two, or can we do one motion that's in favor of a presiding officer and then set the date after you, I mean, because you're not gonna set a date till you get an officer probably.
Right, so we can do it in a two-step process of, if you guys are okay with moving forward with an administrative officer, then we will work to coordinate with them and then come back at the next meeting with a date and time.
That's the same as a hearing officer, correct? Same
Correct.
wordage? Okay, Steve?
Can you just explain a little bit more about the hearing? Who is a hearing officer? Are they a judge? Are they somebody we appoint? How does that work?
Madam Chair, it would typically be someone that the board would appoint to the role. They might be practicing or a retired attorney. You would typically want them to have some legal background. And then they would conduct the hearing, establish ground rules, swear witnesses so that it was orderly and created a record upon which the board could then make a determination.
And then would that happen at a county board meeting, or would it just be a completely separate meeting here?
I would anticipate we would either do it, schedule it for the afternoon of a regular meeting day, or do it as a special meeting.
So, yeah, so that, I'm sorry, I have questions are rolling. So then the board is still active part of that public hearing though, right? You just have an officer presiding.
Correct. And the decision that you make in the end, whether you're going to order the township to make the
I get that.
corrections will be
That's- I didn't-
based on that testimony from the hearing.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think it just recognizes that most folks don't have experience developing a record that is a quasi judicial process. And so you want to be sure that you've got an accurate and complete record and that testimony is solid.
Yes.
Well, with the happenings in Arna Township, I think it's important that we do it the right way without any questions being able to be risen in that. Right now it's inappropriate. I'm sorry. Sorry, Bob. But we can visit after, okay? Okay, all right.
I will move that, 2024-06 for the engagement of a presiding officer to conduct the hearing that we've set at a future date by county auditor.
And Madam Chair, just, you don't want to move the resolution. Everything
Oh, I'm
I've
sorry.
said is good.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, that's what I said here, consider.
So what we really wanted for the motion today is just that we will get a hearing officer, or what did you call him?
Right, a presiding
this thing-
officer.
Presiding officer.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you do a motion to acknowledge the complaint and direct us to secure a hearing officer and then come back with a recommendation for a hearing date, we would do that.
I'll do that. I'll make a
So that's
motion
motion.
to acknowledge the complaint from Arnold Township and to try to recruit a hearing officer for the same complaint. Come back at a later date for a public meeting.
All right.
Can I nuance that just a little? It's not Arna Township, it's residents of Arna Township.
Residents of Arnold Township.
All right, we have a motion by Matt. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Steve.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion or questions? All right, Deb, could you do a roll call, please?
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lovegren.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to commissioner updates. We'll start with the open meeting law webinar. One of the big things that came out that was continually questioned was you do need to be seen and heard wherever you are. So to actually be part of the meeting, you need to keep your camera on at all times. At least one board member must be present in the meeting location. Using technology to meet since the 1990s. Let's see. Policy decisions, how many meetings? So, you know, some of the people were asking how many meetings can you do via electronic, and the question, the answer came is that it's got to be a policy with the, so like if Pine County wanted to say that you're allowed to miss 5 meetings, then it would be a policy that would be set by Pine County. But statute right now is that there is no limitations on that. That's all that I had. That, it was a lot more than that, but military and health directive, 3 times a year. Always consult with legal counsel if you have any questions. Yeah. Arrowhead Counties Association.
I did not make that meeting. I don't know. Somebody else went.
AMC Board of Directors, we did strategic planning for AMC also. And so we went through that and discussed where we're going to go moving forward. It's always an interesting meeting. It's always good to see what they do and how they do. And they did strategic planning through there that I think might help us, and we may look at it down the road and see where that goes also. Snake River Watershed and Management Board, we're closer, but we're not closer. I don't even know how to say it anymore. I asked David if I was really crabby after the meeting because I felt really crabby, and that wasn't the word I used. So what we found out is that Mille Lacs and Kennebec still do not want to sign to get rid of the one watershed or the management board. They want to make sure that the employees are going to continue doing what they've been doing for the past how many years to make sure that the Snake River is taken care of. However, it was kind of broached that it might happen within the next couple of months, so I'm hopeful that it will. There was one more job that was out there that was waiting to happen. That was through the management board, and we took that and deleted it at that meeting, and it's going to be part of the One Watershed, One Plan now. So everything, and then there were a couple more that were proposed, and we denied those, and they went to One Watershed, One Plan. So there's no jobs or no projects that are out there with the management board anymore, which will make it easier, I think, to eliminate that board and just have the one committee. So yeah, Lakes and Pines Community Action Council.
Yes, we met a little over a week ago. I think the obvious thing is the need for fuel assistance is not as great as it was last year, which is understandable. There's this housing money that's available, and I think they're getting their arms around how they can roll that out, especially for homelessness in East Central Minnesota. And I think maybe we need to engage with them a little more about how they're rolling that out and how it affects Pine County specifically. But we'll work on that. That's it.
Highway 23.
Oh, you missed Lower St. Croix.
Oh, Lower St. Croix. I'm sorry, Steve.
Yep. That's all right. We had our meeting. I guess the thing is they had an election of officers, and the same slate was elected, which kind of happens a lot in joint powers agreements if things are going along pretty good. We did amend the work plan because that's the way our system works, so that if the people on the street, the worker bees, are looking at new projects and we didn't have them in our yearly work plan, they would come back with a suggested amendment, and then we would adopt that amendment and move forward from there. And then we had a presentation that I hope we can get to the Pine County Board by Paul from the Pine County Soil and Water about the Conservation Farmer of the Year, Hinsey Family Farm, Randy Hinsey. It's quite an award. I mean, it's each region gets to nominate somebody from their region, and the staff from our SWCD and the Lower St. Croix nominated the Hinsey Farm, and it went into however they statewide competition basically, and they won that as the Conservation Farmer of the Year. So that's I believe that's why we do these one shot, one watershed, one plan, because we're working with local farmers and local people to make things better. And I think we're making a difference there.
It's awesome that they got that award.
Yeah.
Now we'll go to the 23 coalition. So their next meeting, if you want, it's either going to be April 12th or 26th in Marshall. It was nice that they had it via Zoom. They're looking at doing Mille Lacs to Ogilvy. They were looking at going, they need to do some kind of a study from Foley to Mora, but they have to have an entity that'll apply for it. So they need a city or a county to do that. The problem is that people don't have the money to do that. And it's got to have a local match. So right now they don't have a lead on it. Kanabec County was there and they just said that they cannot, because they cannot carry the cost without being reimbursed. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be reimbursed. And once you do the initial cost, it could end up being more. So we're not real sure where that's going to be going right now. So that was sad. Kettle River. One watershed.
That's steering committee? No.
Oh, steering committee, yep.
So I'm not.
Oh, who's on the steering committee? It's,
Usually the key a little bit.
We
oh,
just skip that.
okay. Black Band of Ojibwe, Steve,
Well,
do
it
you want to
might
go?
be- New guy might. be-
Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
My notes are very blank from that meeting, Terry. I know we had a good meeting, but I know we talked about a lot of things, but one of them was, what are we gonna do? You know, the person that was in charge of their child after school program has left, and where are we? And I still have a question mark in my head of where we're at with that. So, and I know we had a question about the Family Resource Center, and they're gonna get back to us about their support to the Family Resource Center when it's the days that it's in Hinckley.
You know, and that was a big change because they had worked really close with Tammy, and Tammy is the one that sent somebody to work at the Family Resource Center, and now Tammy's. So Dave put it in our weekly update a couple of weeks ago that Melanie is no longer going to be the
Chief.
Chief, thank you. Which is really sad. She has done so much, but she really deserves this retirement and being able to be with her family. So we'll have to see what's going to play out there and who's going to be taking that place. Mille Lacs Band, we had talked before that they had said that they were not going to be getting into cannabis, and that's changed. They're going to be doing seed to state cannabis. Right now, it looks like it's going to be a facility in Mille Lacs Lake. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a distribution center at all. It's just going to be testing and that type of stuff, and help with that. More in testing in wholesale space versus dispensaries. Legislative, they've got a parcel of land in District 1, state trust land, working to return it to the band mental health prevention spaces. They, reading their newsletter and stuff, they do a lot for their members, just to help them with mental health or with addictions or that type of things, or the kids when they're dealing with issues. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that all continues the way it's been going. NLX, step 1, the project code identified and what they need to do to advance. Kathy George from the City of Sandstone presented, they want to have a facility and a maintenance facility and a layover facility. And so they're bringing that back to the table. So they would be the first stop and the last stop for the train. And so I don't know where that's going. They just did another presentation to see if they could get that back on the scope. And then.
Did they agree to put it back on?
No. I think they might look at it, but I don't know. And then Stanchville Township was there, and they need to replace a bridge for the NLX train to go through. And it's going to be expensive, and our townships don't have that kind of money. So she was asking them how that's going to happen, and she didn't really get any answers on that either. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Housing, HRA and the EDA.
I'll take, we want me to take it, JJ?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Okay, it was a general meeting, buildings are all full. They're continuing the discussion that's gonna happen and moving forward with, the August 24th of 2024 purchase of the Northport Apartments. And that transaction is gonna happen. Just going through, and operational reports, everything was pretty much normal, not many complaints from anybody in the buildings. They set their audit date for the audit amounts, for, to be 15,700 and some bucks or something. And then there's this discussion about them managing our public hearing today on the housing. So that's all, they're involved with that too, you know?
Mhm. Yep.
And,
I can add something.
they were like, do we have to come to that meeting? And I said, no, I think Leslie and I handle that for you. And David, I should say David, because he's like the boss.
The boss
of
man.
the group. So anyway, it's always a good meeting, and I'm really, tell you what, really, that committee, when they work with Kelly and they're managing everything, they're really on top of managing the dollars and cents. And I was on that committee prior to that, and that was never front and center and not transparent up on so to speak. So I mean, it was there, but this discussion is really good now, and it's you know, it always shows up. So anyway, good job. And Kelly's usually there to, if they have something major, she'll either be on zooming in or whatever too. So it was a good meeting. Always a good meeting.
I got something to add.
Go ahead, JJ.
Yeah, David, if you could check with the company's called Abdo. They also do audits. I was explaining to Matt and I that there was it sounded like only one person out there that could do it, or was just the only one. Abdo does Chicago County. Chicago County has 105 units and 7 buildings. So just going off of those numbers, it's a lot more than what we got going on in Pine. And Abdo charges Chisago County, from what I found out, $15,000. So if it's okay with the rest of the board, could David follow up and check and verify that we're getting a, you know, good bang for our buck with this audit?
I think notes have been taken. So
Board's decision to do that stuff.
the
Yeah, but-
HRA boards.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not this board, that's the HRA board.
We did an
Yeah.
RFP during the transition when the former firm stopped doing them. And we got one response from Redpath. And this will be their third audit that they're just starting. It will be the first audit that they're doing where management has fully transitioned for the year to Jolene and SMR. And so it would seem that next year it would certainly be appropriate to do an RFP.
Yeah, and I think there was some problems, and he had to rebuild a lot of stuff on that initial bid, right? And I don't know if that was.
Yeah, there
part of
were,
it.
there were significant
And,
record keeping problems.
right, so he had to rebuild things, so that was, I think the money was kind of, and then it
Right.
kind of carried into the last one.
We may see a difference in cost.
I don't know.
Is there anything else on the HRA EDA? Did you have anything else?
Nope.
Jay? Okay. Public Health Advisory Committee, they used to meet and they haven't met for a long time and they met again. It was fun. They had a lot of people from the public that were on that meeting. And so a lot of them said that they were on the meeting because they really wanted to do more with blue zones. I was thinking blue rays. So with the blue zones, it's resourceful, but then trying to figure out how to, you know, normally with the blue zone area, you would do like the city of Pine City or city of Hinckley or the city of Sandstone or Sturgeon Lake or whatever, but to do a whole county, it's going to be interesting. And so it was fun listening to their ideas. It's going to be a great committee to be on, and I'm glad that they got it going again. Zoning board.
I'll be quick. That was a good meeting. They went over the shoreline ordinance review. So that's like, you
Oh,
just kind of keep going on with a lot. There was just a lot of stuff like that. And I'll tell you, they're getting that figured out. Oh, I should back up because they had a election of officers too. The chair changed. Skip Thompson is the chair. And then the rest of the same. Sue is the vice chair and Nancy's. But other than that, it was just a pretty quick meeting.
okay.
Oh, I should say, I can't go without saying, Mark Lampert was there. And he, he always has good things to say to the board. And, he's always trying to help with how you model the shoreline ordinance and how you want to tweak things so it doesn't have the unintended consequences. And I don't always get the sense that he's doing for self, whatever. He's been involved with the heavy discussions with the DNR. Lots of stuff. So he's just making up he likes to make the board aware of issues that arose. I think that's his intent anyway. But I'm sure he always wants to look for a way, he's a businessman, but who knows? And,
But he's helping a lot of others when he does.
but
this.
it helps the board too when they have those. What it does is it helps a discussion start with that board. And then it's such a diverse board, they always find their way to it. Yeah.
Labor negotiations.
I'm gonna say we're gonna move that to
The closed meeting?
yeah, we had our meeting and I don't think I want to talk about anything public yet because it's nothing settled or whatever. It's not bad or whatever. It's just we'll discuss it in the closed.
Okay. East Central Regional Juvenile Advisory Committee.
And Terry Fawcett is gonna handle that for me because I was gone for that too.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Terry Fawcett, Pine County Probation Director. I attended that meeting last week. First thing, bed use report. The juvenile centers had the highest average daily population in the 26 years of the Joint Powers Agreement, average of almost 33 residents a day. They also had a couple U.S. Marshal holds for a murder case. So there are a couple kids that were there on hold for over a year. And the Juvenile Center, as well as Arrowhead Juvenile Center in Duluth are the only two in the state that are licensed to have those type of holds. So till they get further stress there. RJC had 5 positions left vacant due to the inability to fill them. This is an interesting statistic here. Several counties, including, or about half of the membership, including Pine County, had overages in usage, according to how many beds that they own in the membership. Pine was north 135 days. Last year we were under. So it's a moving target every year. It's something that we look at. We look at trends, and then when Becky and I meet and do the budget every year, we try to plan accordingly. But this year that equaled just almost $44,000 in overage fees that goes towards that.
If we have our bed, but when we go over, we have to pay that extra, right?
Yes,
So is that, do we get it as a member rate or does it go as a,
it gets at the member rate. Yeah.
okay, it doesn't change because we don't
No,
have the bed.
no.
That was a question I had.
No, good question. And a lot of kids being placed mental health issues too, so that's not necessarily a great thing either, but the budget surplus is projected at about $838,000 right now for the membership. That'll be finalized in March or April. There was a vote unanimously approved to move that to reserves, capital reserves. A lot of expenses coming up in the next 3 to 5 years. Anticipate $750,000 to $900,000 of expenses. The roof is original. That's a $400,000 bill. Elevator modernization, painting, replacing carpet, control room remodel, and then some other emergency stuff that's come up of late. The last thing that we discussed was just kind of an update on the implementation of safety-based separation. You may remember that as of or January 1st, 2024, detention room time was eliminated via statute. And so the safety-based separation is kind of a step down from that. The juvenile center that we use wasn't one of them in the state that was identified as keeping kids locked up in their rooms longer than they should be, but there was enough uproar not only statewide, but nationally about detention room times and juveniles and how detrimental that can be. So there's a different way of doing things now that's less damaging long-term to a kid. And so that's been going pretty well and safe towards their staff. So I have any questions?
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Others, anybody have any others?
I got something here. Central Minnesota Council on Aging met last Thursday. We did have an election and I was elected chair again. And the whole aging program has been going through a legislative audit, not just Central Minnesota, but the whole state. So of course they came and audited what's going on in Central Minnesota, and we did quite well on that. There was, some minor glitches in the system, which happens, when you're dealing with that many hundreds or actually literally thousands of people where you don't have a signature on a piece of paper that they ate a meal or whatever, but nothing to worry about. Then we heard a report from some people that are working on a pilot project called Together Well. It's going on in the Stearns Benton area. So mostly about trying to get seniors not to be isolated. We work hard to keep seniors in their homes as long as we can. And we think sometimes that leads to isolation, and it does, but we forget about the people that move to a nursing home or a senior apartment complex. And if they don't know anybody there, how isolated they can be because they've moved out of their own little neighborhood or their own little town and moved to a bigger town or whatever. So, and the significant impact that has on their health. That's it.
Anybody else have any others? I have a couple. So I sat in with Project Rise. And the exciting news is that they were able to hire a new cultural coach. Her name is Lori Yost. She'll be starting slow because she's teaching in the metro area. So she's just going to be coming in and doing things part-time right now until she can start full-time next year. One of the things that they're talking about, they were talking a lot about truancy and kids just not showing up for school. And so they were talking about the bribes that they were giving them, or the incentives as they called them. So, it might be if my grandson is doing it right now, their class had really good attendance. And so they get to go to the movie theater. So there's a lot of things that they're working on to get the kids to come. It was interesting because one of the administrators said that the day that they have the highest amount of attendance is on the Wednesdays where they get out of school early, which they miss an hour of school. It was really interesting that was the highest attendance day. So yeah, it was interesting. The other one that I sat in on was the DNR did a thing on wolves in Minnesota. And I wanted, we had that senator that talked and he said the DNR is not your friend. That they don't support they just, if you call them and you have a wolf that ate one of your animals or something, they'll find any way to figure out how it was not a wolf. I did talk to somebody after that meeting and they said that our DNR is amazing and very, very helpful and very good. So I just want that publicly, that our DNR officials here are really good about helping farmers.
I agree with that.
Yeah. The one thing that they did, they did acknowledge that right now we have more deer than we're supposed to have. The primary prey is deer, and then it's cattle, sheep, and turkeys. And then they talked about taking down the moose up in the northern areas and how the wolf is, or the wolf is taking out so many of the moose that the population is way down and they're becoming more of an endangered species than the wolves are. So it was interesting hearing the DNR side. There's 630 packs with four wolves with packs, or four wolves per pack. And they cover 630 miles. 15% is considered a lone wolf without a pack. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, that, you know, there's usually 4 in a pack. And we have a lot of packs, 630 packs in Minnesota. We have a lot. So that was it. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Oh, Associated Minnesota Legislative Conference. Oh, no, that's one of the, okay, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna close the meeting and go into labor negotiations with IBEW. So can we have a motion to close the meeting?
I'll move that we go into closed session.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Steve, a second by Matt. Any questions about this? Deb, can you do a roll call? Do we need a roll call on that? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, why are we going through a closed meeting again?
If you look at your agenda, it's the closed meeting for labor negotiations with IBEW representing the County Health Service Administrator or Community Health Service.
So that's one person, correct?
Yes. Yep. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions? You do a roll call, Deb, please.
District 1, Commissioner Holland.
Yes.
District 3, Chair Lovegren.
Yes.
District 4, Commissioner Waldham.
I oppose.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
I'm supposed to add, I move to close this meeting as provided by Minnesota Statute 13D03 to consider strategy for labor negotiations, including negotiation strategies and development, discussion and review of labor negotiation proposal pursuant to Minnesota Statute 179A.01 to 179A.25. So we'll close for 5 minutes and then we'll come back for a closed session.
And so.
Are we gonna dial right into the other?
I was just gonna tell you.
For those who are remote, you should have a link from Jackie, will be the closed meeting, so you can go ahead and jump onto that. And then those who are in person can make their way after the break over to the Commissioner Conference Room.
All right.
So tell me when we're ready.
We're ready.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Typically, Terry, you've
Oh,
just.
sorry. Oh, we did just adjourn?
No, typically the chair has just, being no
Oh.
further business or seeing no further business, declare the meeting adjourned.
So that, seeing no further business, I adjourn the meeting. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.